Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, on the Mac Sports and the Northeast Streaming Sports Facebook pages, the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel, also on Twitter and Instagram. Like, share, comment, please subscribe to the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel. For all the great Northeast Streaming Sports shows, our website is nessp.info. Check it out. Shows information, guests information, stores and links. I'm Mac with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, legendary boxing writer and former president of the Boxing Writers Association of America, bringing you national sports with special focus on the Northeast professional sports from New York, Boston, and Philly. Good morning, Jack.
Good morning, Mac. How's it going, Mac?
It's going good, Jack. I mean, I'm ready to go. It's a little overcast up here in Connecticut. We might be getting some snow for your weather report, Jack. We might be.
No, don't believe it, Mac. You're not going to get snow in April. You might get a few. You might get a little dusting, but not snow in the real sense of the word.
Well, I mean, they're saying that we might get a little slush. Of course, in the upper hills, it still snows in April and sometimes even early May.
Mac, what are you doing in the upper hills? What do you care? I mean, what are the upper hills? I mean,
I might want to go climbing, Jack. Part of my career in the service, I used to scale a few hills here and there. So I haven't done it in years, but it would be fun to do again. So anyway, that's my weather report out there for you guys. So. Jack, we do have a great show coming up today, right? We got a lot of sports to get to. We got Carter B, who just started hosting his own show called Two on O Hockey Show, where him and his co-host they break down the hockey, especially the Eastern League with the Islanders, the Rangers, the Bruins, the Flyers, Capitals. The Penguins, Devils, and the Sabres. I think I got them all right. But he's doing a great job over there.
Yeah, I saw a little Carter show, actually. I was browsing, watched it. I'm Carter and his co-host. Carter will tell us his name. They really know their stuff. I mean, they're very serious-minded. And, it's really nice having a young man like Carter on this show and breaking down the individual players. And the NHL is... I think it's more relevant than it's been in years. I mean, maybe it's my imagination, but sports go in cycles, and I kind of feel hockey is on a bit of an upswing now, especially the playoff format. There are 8 teams per division, Mac. 4 divisions, 8 teams per division. The first 4 make it into the playoffs, which is reasonable, okay? And unlike the NBA, who now seems to have they would have like 6 out of the 8 in the playoffs if it was the NBA. But hockey still makes it difficult. And there are a number of teams chasing that last playoff position. And in hockey, once you get in the playoffs, anyone can win. Anyone.
100% right, Jack. And we also have, they call him a boxing icon now. I mean, Iceman John Scully, former multiple Golden Glove winner, contender at the middleweight and light heavyweight division when he was pro, former analyst, a writer, trainer of a few champions in different weight classes, and right now assistant training at the light heavyweight champion, Artur Beterbiev, and he'll be on, and he just has a lot of information, Jack. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys that I love to listen to, and I love to listen to you two talk about boxing with all your knowledge. So
John's got very good insights, okay? He's a philosophical thinker, but a smart thinker. And, he always comes up with something each week when we have him on that's really thought-provoking.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt, Jack. And we have our Ain't Gonna Happen segment, which you are sponsored by BST.Breaks. Breaks.com, I should say, where we have our own sponsored segment. And then, of course, we'll go through the Major League Baseball, the NBA, and any sports news. And if we got time at the end of the show, Jack,
BST is great what they do. I recommend the people out there get their product. But why can't it be like Nike is with LeBron? LeBron could get 100 pairs of sneakers, Mac. He could get all the outfits sent to him.
Right.
Okay. But our sponsors are great. I mean, I really highly recommend anything we sponsor. We don't just take on any sponsors. Anything we sponsor, it gets a stamp of approval by us.
Definitely. And we both have ordered stuff through them, so it's a very good shop. I mean, they got memorabilia, they've got cards, they got signed shirts. I mean, they got everything, and we'll talk a little bit more about them during the segment. So, Jack, I just want to start with a little bit of sports in general. Brett Favre comes out, and Brett Favre is not afraid to speak his mind, as you know. And he's very, during his playing days, he was respected, one of the greatest quarterbacks probably in the history of the NFL. You can make that argument. And he had a lot of admirers. He had a lot of competitors. We remember him going up against, a lot of defensive linemen and giving them business right back after he got sacked. So he wasn't scared of nothing. So he comes out and he says, as we've been saying, Jack, keep the politics out of sports. You're hurting the sports. He's talked to people, his friends. They're not watching anymore. And he says it all started, Jack, with that kneel. And he said that has created more turmoil and maybe opened the door for more political statements in sports. He thinks that started it all.
I won't say no. That didn't start at all. Actually, you go back to the 1968 Olympics. Yeah. Tommy Smith, John Carlos, and I don't object so much to what they did, on revisionist thinking, which could be a dangerous thing looking back. That was 1968. They were taking a stand because, athletes would win, black athletes, Olympic gold medals, then they wouldn't be served in a restaurant down south. So that's kind of ridiculous. You're representing your country, you're representing them in the military as well, and then you can't go into a restaurant. You're asked to sit in the back of the bus. But things have changed quite a bit since then. Now we're in the year 2021. The problem is, sports is always supposed to be, for the most part, a getaway, okay? A getaway from reality. It's not as serious as what goes on in life in general. It's kind of like a distraction. When we had 9/11, baseball was a distraction afterwards. We love baseball, we love the other sports, but it was a bit of a distraction. It's a fine balance, Mac, because if the athletes didn't say a thing at all and didn't get involved, they would be criticized for that. Yeah. Because they do have a platform. And as crazy as it is, an athlete can be a great, great player, and he's going to have respect outside of the arena because of how great he is in the arena. While someone who might not be an athlete might have a lot more wisdom, but they're not going to have the platform. But with that said, I see where Brett Favre is coming from. And I'm not going to criticize him. It gets to the point where enough is enough where everything is going to be, I don't want to say a political thing, a social thing that doesn't have to do with sports. But you do want the athletes involved. And I do like the idea of the athletes being involved, but there has to be better communication, not just with the athletes, but those criticizing the athletes, where people have to be able to talk and communicate more. And I've said it in the past. Larry Fitzgerald, the great Hall of Fame receiver to be from the Arizona Cardinals, said it best. The only way society is going to come together is if people sit down and discuss things without worrying about the repercussions, without worrying that if they give an opinion on something, they are going to be damaged in any way as far as their career goes. And we're in a society, Mac. Listen, you slip up, you say the wrong thing comes out of your mouth, and you don't even mean it. It happens to all of us. It's happened to you a lot of times. It's happened to me a lot of times. We're discussing something and it comes out the wrong way. And even if we say a moment later, oh, I didn't mean it to come out that way. I'm sorry, because it just happens to come out. People are ready to pounce and destroy you. They want you to get fired. They're willing to ruin your life. And that's the type of society that we're in. So as a result, everyone is conservative. Everyone is nice all the time. So with that said, Brett Favre, I see his point of view, where he's coming from. And I'm not going to condemn his point of view, even though I think athletes who want to speak out on social unrest should do it. But there has to be a fine balance somewhere. And I'm sorry I went on too long with this.
Well, the one thing my dad always said, there's a time and place for everything. And I agree. Before I bring Carter on, I do agree that sports is just a game, right? I mean, we hold it up high because that's what we cover, and people love sports, and they go there to watch sports. It's a place, as you said, not only you get away, Jack, but they get all tied up in it, right? They get all tied up in the stats. They get all tied up in their personal lives of the sports players they're following. They get all tied up in the rumors. It's like a pretend land, and stuff that they're talking about there is real life. And it should be discussed in real life, and that's all I got to say on that.
Just go up
with that said, Jack, let's get back to sports.
Let's move on, because really we went to another area just now. And if anyone, the people who've listened to this show, see how comfortable I normally feel here, and even talking about this, I felt uncomfortable these last couple of minutes.
Exactly. So let's get to one of our favorite guests, the man who knows everything. I say everything about hockey. So let's bring him up in the right way, guys.
Tension grows, the whistle blows, and the puck goes down the ice. The goalie jumps, and the players bump, and the fans all go insane. Someone roars, calling star,
So there he is, our go-to guy, the expert that we rely on, even doing his own show right now on Northeast Streaming Sports. Carter B. How you doing today, Carter?
I'm doing good, guys. How's it going?
Not too bad.
Carter, good morning.
Well, Carter, I got a chance to watch your show a little bit the last couple times. I want to say you guys are dynamite over there. You guys are doing a great job. Anybody that's out there that's listening to the show, check out Carter B. And his co-host. Can you pronounce the name for us, please, Carter?
Yeah, my co-host name is Andrew Marisi.
Marisi. Okay, yeah. So how does he like to be called, Andy or Andrew?
Whatever. I think he's open to both. So
okay, so check out Carter and Andy over there on 2-on-0 Hockey Show. It's a great little thing. I always learn a lot from talking to you anyway. So watching you, I learned a little bit. So Carter, let's get to the hockey standings as we do every week. We have the Central Division. Hurricanes, Tampa Bay, and the Panthers are tied for first, followed by the Predators. Barkov leads the Panthers right now with 44 total points. There's one guy right behind him at 43. I didn't read totally through. I've heard of Barkov before, just kind of in general. What kind of player is Barkov, and is he one of the stars over there?
He is 100% one of the stars over on the Florida Panthers. I think currently Alexander Barkov is currently the best player on the Panthers roster. He's I don't think a lot of people give him as much recognition as he deserves. He's a big guy who is very dynamic in the way that he skates and the way that he moves the puck. He's got good hands. He's able to make passes in tight areas, and overall, he's just a really good, solid hockey player with really high hockey IQ. So the Panthers are definitely lucky to have him, and they're definitely lucky to have him as their captain. That's for sure.
So in the West, you got the Avalanche right now in first, followed by the Knights both with 4 wins in the last 4 games. The Wild and the Blues, and Devon Dubnyk, I think it's Dubnyk, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. The goalie over there that they just picked up earns a victory. Good pickup, for the Avalanche, or is that just a backup, or what is that over there, Carter?
Well, just to start out, you did get the name right, Mac. It is Devin Dubnyk, and with Devin Dubnyk, you're getting a lot of veteran experience. He might not be the best goaltender out there, but at the same time, you're getting a guy who's been there before. He's never been too deep into the playoffs, but at the same time, you're getting a guy who's played a lot of games in the NHL, who knows what it takes to win, and that's something that could go a long way in a young Colorado Avalanche locker room. Andy and I were talking about this yesterday on our episode of the 2-on-0 Hockey Show. I'm not too convinced that Devin Dubnyk is necessarily the answer for the Colorado Avalanche. I like the pickup for them because, as I said, obviously it brings a lot of veteran leadership into that locker room. But I feel like there were better options out there for him. Granted, he will be the backup behind Philip Grubauer, but I feel like there were more attractive names out there that the Avalanche could have pursued. But at the end of the day, I'm not the Avalanche GM, so I guess that this is the move that they saw fit.
Let me ask you, Carter. The Buffalo Sabres, they've not only been losing, they seem to be a dysfunctional franchise. They moved on from some players, and they couldn't get great value in the draft. And the Columbus Blue Jackets did a similar thing and got much better value, it seemed, at the trade deadline than the Sabres got. And, so what's with that organization as a whole? I know they've gone through a big hardship, a big winless streak, but it just doesn't seem to be getting better. You think of next year, teams rebuild, but they seem to be so far away. They just seem to be sinking. And even Jack Eichel out for the year, you get the feeling, and just a feeling, nothing more, that had the Sabres been in playoff contention, that maybe he would be playing, now, maybe, but he's out for the season now. So what's going on with the Sabre franchise as a whole?
Well, if we're touching up on the Jack Eichel situation, obviously it was announced yesterday that he has a herniated disc in his neck, so he would be out anyway. I don't think it would matter if the Sabres were in playoff contention or not. Obviously we wish all the best to Jack Eichel, and we hope his recovery is sometime soon. But with in talking about the trade deadline, I was confused as to why Boston got so little out of Taylor Hall, and now I think I have the answer to that, and it's because that Taylor Hall had a no movement clause, which basically means that he could control wherever he wanted to go. And I think that Boston had been a destination that he was looking at for a long time. I know he said himself that he was actually pretty close to signing in Boston over the course of the offseason, but the Bruins just couldn't make it work financially. So obviously he had to take his talents elsewhere, and he went to Buffalo. I was surprised that the Blue Jackets were able to get 2 first-rounders out of players like Nick Foligno and David Savard, and then you look at what the Bruins got back for Taylor Hall. It's almost shocking to see what the return packages were like for both sides.
So Toronto basically.
Well, back to the standings, and we'll talk a lot more about the East in a minute. You got Toronto at 28-11, and first followed by the Jets, Oilers, and Montreal. The Jets pretty much hold on to all their young players. It looks like they have a plan definitely to rebuild out there, Carter.
I wouldn't say the plan is to rebuild in Winnipeg. I think, they didn't do much at this year's trade deadline. I mean, you added Jordy Benn at the deadline, which is a depth defenseman for them. But I feel like Kevin Cheveldayoff, the GM of the Winnipeg Jets, is very confident in the group that they have. And, their big move this year didn't really come at the trade deadline. It came earlier in the season when they swapped Jack Roslovic and Patrick Laine for Pierre-Luc Dubois. And that trade has worked very well for the Winnipeg Jets. Dubois has been a solid player in that top 6. And I think the plan for the Winnipeg Jets, I wouldn't call it to rebuild at all. I would say the Jets are all in for the Stanley Cup, and I'm supporting them all the way. This is a good Winnipeg Jets team that I think a lot of people are underrating right now.
You think they have a shot against Toronto then, huh?
Uh, I would say as of right now, I mean they're in the 2 spot in the North Division, so they would have to play Edmonton in the second round, and I think the Jets can beat Edmonton in a 7-game series. They wouldn't really have to worry about playing the Maple Leafs up until they got to the second round, which I don't know. I mean, again, I think a lot of people are underrating how good this Jets team is. So I could see the Jets giving the Leafs a run for their money here in the playoffs. Again, this is a really, really good Jets team that I wouldn't want to run into in the playoffs.
You have in the East, as Jack was getting to, you got the Capitals right now at 20-11, followed by the Islanders. Pittsburgh and the Bruins. Pittsburgh with a 3-game winning streak, Carter. They go and they get center. They go and get a center, Jeff Carter. They get Jeff Carter. They say he's very versatile, and he's a good acquirer for Pittsburgh. Big move by them, or okay, they did something good.
I mean, it's okay. I think Jeff Carter is he is a great veteran leader. I know I say that about a lot of players, but he has played a ton of games, both regular season and playoffs in the National Hockey League. He's a 2-time Stanley Cup champ with LA, so he really, really knows what it takes to win both in the regular season and in the playoffs. I don't know how big the center market was this time around. I heard that they had interest in Eric Staal before he went to the Montreal Canadiens, so obviously, that trade didn't quite fall through for them. But I like the addition of Jeff Carter. I think he'll make a good third line center for them, and I don't think he necessarily moves the needle for them. I don't know if he pushes them over the edge of being a true Stanley Cup contender, but it's a nice depth piece. I like I like the attempt to try and bolster your center depth. So I guess we'll see what happens with that.
So in the games last night, Carter, you had the Wild over the Coyotes 5-2, the Flames 4-1 over Montreal, the Jets 3-2 over the Senators, Avalanche 4-3 over the Blues, the Knights they won 6-2, the Ducks over the Sharks 4-1. There were no local games last night, but today we have the Sabres, Capitals, Devils, Rangers, Islanders, Bruins, always a tough game, and Flyers against their interstate rivals, Pittsburgh. So, do the Rangers have a shot at getting into the playoffs realistically? I think Andy's a Rangers fan. If I'm correct from what I saw, he thinks they do. Realistically, Carter, what do you think?
Yeah, just to confirm, he is a Rangers fan, and since I'm an Islander fan, him and I have a lot of clashing opinions on things, so it's a fun time. But yeah, I mean, of course, I think the Rangers have a shot to make the playoffs. They're 4 points out of the picture right now. The only thing that I'm a little bit skeptical as of right now is I like the addition of Taylor Hall for the Boston Bruins. I really think that he bolsters that top 6, and it's really something that the Bruins have needed for a long, long time. Is somebody who can step into the top 6, not even like outside of your first line. The Bruins are really a one-line team when it comes to their scoring. They need a lot of depth scoring, and I think Taylor Hall provides that. With Boston, I feel like they're going to go on a bit of a run here. Obviously, they won their most recent game, and they have 2 games in hand on the Rangers as of right now. So say the Bruins win those 2 games, that's another 4 points. That would mean the Rangers are out of the playoffs by a total of 8 points. So I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how this Rangers team battles this adversity and really fights for this playoff spot here. At the end of the day, I think they fall just short, but I think this will be an entertaining run here by the Rangers.
You mentioned 4 points behind. The Calgary Flames they stayed alive this week. 2 big wins to beat Toronto and Montreal. I mean, you got to give Calgary a lot of credit for staying in the playoff hunt when they could have easily dropped off.
100%. And, you're looking at the Flames right now. They're on a 3-game winning streak of their own. See, I'm not too convinced that the Flames are going to make the playoffs. I think the Canadians are, they're ahead of them for a reason. They're more deserving of that 4th seed than the Flames are. I don't mean to sound harsh when I say that, but Calgary has been a very streaky team all year. It seems like whenever they're finally catching their stride and finally getting on their groove, if you will, they go out and they lose their next couple of games and they push themselves out of playoff contention again. So I don't know what to think of Calgary. I mean, if they wind up making the playoffs, it honestly wouldn't shock me. But as of right now, I mean, they've been really, really streaky, so it's hard for me to pick them over the Canadians.
And the one team that seems to be all in for the Stanley Cup this year, as much as anyone else, the Toronto Maple Leafs, because to get Nick Foligno, they gave up a number one draft choice, and he's going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. And to give up a number one pick for an unrestricted free agent, that sends a message. This is an all-out blitz this year. They're leaving no stone unturned this season.
100%. And I like the move that that the Leafs made for Nick Foligno. I think he he was a captain of the Columbus Blue Jackets, so he knows what it takes to be a leader, and he knows what it takes to guide teams to the playoffs. With the Maple Leafs, I think their top six is pretty much set in stone now with Nick Foligno coming in. I think he's a really good addition for them. He can provide scoring. He can, play physical. He can go to those dirty areas and score goals. I think the sneaky good move that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, and I know he lost in his debut with Toronto, is David Rittich, the goaltender that they got from the Calgary Flames. He provides a little bit more depth in the crease behind Jack Campbell, and obviously when their starter, Frederik Andersen, comes back from injury. This is a good Maple Leafs team, and I think the one thing that, that you were mentioning before with the fact that they gave up a first-round pick for Foligno, who is an unrestricted free agent, is I don't think a lot of teams wanted to go after players that had term on their contract. I think that's mainly because of the fact that the Seattle Kraken expansion draft is coming up. And, with these players that are expiring at the end of the season, their contracts are expiring at the end of the year, I should say. That just leaves one less player that you have to protect in the expansion draft and one less player that you have to worry about losing in order to protect the players that you want to protect. So, I don't know. I mean, there have been rumors too that Nick Foligno would just leave Toronto in free agency regardless of what happens and re-sign with Columbus. So I suppose we'll see what happens, but he's already mentioned that, it's going to be fun playing for the Leafs. His dad played for the Toronto Maple Leafs back in 1993 when they made it to the conference finals. So I'm sure he's definitely hoping for more of the same playoff magic.
So what surprises me, and it surprises me a lot, and that's all sports, Carter, is how they pick up these teams, pick up these players for playoff runs. I mean, you've got to have a chemistry for the team to even get to the playoffs. And normally a free agent signing, say, in football or baseball or especially in basketball too, they pick up these guys for just that playoff run. If you're that convinced that these guys are going to help you win the playoffs, wouldn't you want to sign them also just for more than just that one playoff run? Wouldn't you want to get your claws into them for 1 or 2 more years? And that way, if it don't work out, you can still trade them. I don't understand that.
I think in any other year, yeah, that would be the case. But again, I think a lot of GMs are kind of weary of what happened with the Vegas expansion draft, where they lost players that, might not have been useful for their club, but went on to play really, really well for the Vegas Golden Knights. So I think a lot of GMs are keeping that in the back of their head. I think if this were any other year, I think that more players that had term on their contracts would be available at the trade deadline. And we might even have seen some of the players who were acquired at the trade deadline maybe re-signing with some new teams. So the trade deadline in the NHL is definitely an interesting time to be a hockey fan, and this year was no different.
What's the deal with the Vancouver Canucks going forward? I mean, there's a bit of controversy there. Some of the players don't think they should even be playing because of the COVID situation, and there seems to be a lot of turmoil.
Right, and yesterday they had a pretty positive update in the fact that they took 9 players off the COVID list, which means only 7 remain. I know that sounds like a lot, but at the same time, you're taking over half of the players that were on the COVID list off of it, so it's definitely a good sign for them. As of right now, I don't think that the plan is to have any players opt out of the season. I think they're all ready to come back and play at some capacity, but at the same time, I think the league is kind of rushing them back into playing. They're actually scheduled to come back tomorrow night against the Edmonton Oilers, and to be completely honest, I don't think they're ready for that. I think the league should maybe give them another couple of days, maybe even a week or so off to kind of get back in the swing of things, if you will. But I think at the end of the day, I think the main priority, at least the main priority, should be the players' health and well-being. And obviously, I'm sending my personal thoughts and prayers out to anybody who was affected by this. It's something that you never want to see, and it's something that hopefully we never see again in the NHL.
Yeah, I don't know, Carter. I don't know about that. I hope you're right too. There's one other thing I wanted to get to you with here. When you're getting ready for the playoffs, and everybody says, well, anybody can win in the playoffs and stuff. This is a different year because of COVID, right? They're all playing within each other. They're knocking off each other. They're beating up each other. We still don't know, comparatively, what these teams really, how good they are, because they're not going outside the conference. And in any sport, it's all about matchups, right? You may be a little faster than another team. Your defense may be just a little bit better. Your goalie may be just a little bit better in that division. So we still really don't know who the best team out there is. We have no idea. Let's put it that way. All we can go is off last year and what we see within the divisions. And so, I mean, Toronto may be great there, and they may be terrible. The Islanders may make it, but yet they go up against the Knights, and they might get, they may get swept. So, what are you looking for when you're looking at these games? I mean, Pittsburgh has an advantage over this team. The Capitals have an advantage over this team. I mean, what are you looking at right now to kind of project who you think is going to probably be the two top teams when playoffs come around?
See, it's so hard to answer that because, again, I mean, you don't really know who the good teams are up until you get to the Final Four, where you would play teams that are out of your division and maybe even out of your conference, depending on how the seeding goes. I don't think that teams are focusing that far in advance. I think that regardless of whoever you're playing in the first or second round, you're focusing on winning those series first. And, at the end of the day, I mean, your record is your record. I don't think any teams are focusing on how good they are compared to other divisions. At the end of the day, you're fighting for a playoff spot in your own division. And I don't know. I mean, it's tough to say who the best of the best are. You can take your picks from each division and kind of, make an argument to who would beat who in a best of 7 series. But at the end of the day, you're not really going to know up until the Stanley Cup playoffs roll around. So, I mean, I'm definitely excited for that, and I'm definitely excited to see how everything plays out.
Well, Carter, I want to thank you for coming in again. Good luck on your show. Hopefully you continue to get popular and do your thing. And I enjoy watching you, enjoy having you on as a guest.
Carter, you are going to give a prediction before the playoffs who wins the cup, right? I mean, you're not going to hedge it all. You're going to give a solid prediction. Outside of the New York Islanders.
As much as I would like them to, I think I can throw my playoff prediction out there right now, but that might change depending on how the bracket looks. So I got Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay is the best team in the league, and I think they'll go back to back. So we'll see what happens.
All right, my friend. Well, it will change. I guarantee you, when playoffs come out, it'll change again. Carter, thanks again. Have a great weekend, and good luck on your show, my friend.
Thanks, Carter.
Thanks, guys, and I'm learning from some of the best in you guys, so thank you.
Listen, I caught a little of your show. I liked it. You and your partner, you do a really good job. You guys are focused, talk some serious hockey. Anyone who likes hockey and wants to learn about it should watch your show.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate that.
Take care, my friend.
You too.
Well, there you go, Jack. And right behind him, we got our next guest. Probably my favorite because I love hockey. I love hockey.
Well, there's a lot of fighting in hockey. I mean, they throw down the fists, the punches fly in hockey. So Scully could, help some hockey team.
Yeah, I think he could train some of the players over there on actually how to fight. So when they get in that
hockey players have done that, Mac. In the off season, they've taken up boxing. Some of the guys.
Well, maybe
yeah.
Maybe we could hook John up and give him some extra work and extra money. I mean, maybe he can make an extra money on the side. Maybe we'll recommend him to some of the hockey connections we got. So let's bring up the Iceman, multiple Golden Glove winner, contender at middleweight and light heavyweight, trainer of champions, analyst, a writer, Oh my God, this guy's almost an icon now, Jack. Let's see if he'll come on with us now. I mean, after I got his head so swollen up, let's see what's going on. How you doing, Iceman?
What are your names again?
You should see him. You should see him, Jack. He's on every show. I turn on Iceman's on this one and on this podcast and on this show. He's like a star. We have a star that comes on every week with us. How about that? Hey. So Iceman, I want to get some through some boxing news with you and Jack, and then go on to I do got a video. We're gonna try and play it, and you better not mess me up this time, Iceman. You're the only one I have problems with the video. We'll discuss a little bit about Joe Smith and his last win, since we haven't been able to talk to you really about it on the show, and then of course we'll get into training. And we'll ask you a couple questions on that too. So let's get into the boxing news first. I mean, there's a couple interesting things out there that happened. They have Miguel Cotto. He's coming back. He's going to fight. He's going pay-per-view. He's fighting Juan Marquez June 12th. Cotto, of course, was a world champion. What are your thoughts about him coming back in?
Pointless. Like he's old. It's just he's. You could see a few years ago. There's a video of him talking to his wife, and I've been there. I've had the same talk, not with my wife, but with other people, and he just didn't like it anymore. He just didn't want to fight anymore. And once you're a certain age and you hit that point where it doesn't mean anything anymore to you, it's hard to get that back. And you're coming back against young lions, and they would love to get Miguel Cotto's name on their record, So, I mean, I don't know if it's for money or what the situation is. I'm not really sure. But in general terms, I'm not a fan of these guys making comebacks.
I'm not sure that it's a comeback exactly. It's kind of like one of these old-timer exhibitions, like Mike Tyson coming back to the ring with Roy Jones. I don't think that was a comeback. It could be considered that. I think it's going to be billed as an exhibition with Marquez. It might turn out to be real. But Cotto's not in his 50s. I'm not sure of his exact age, but I would say it's somewhere, close to 40, just off the top of my head, okay? Right. I'd have to look it up. So it's not totally unreasonable for him to come back. He could probably, John, beat the average fighters still if he gets in shape. The average fighters, the elite, but he would no longer be elite. And plus, I don't have to tell you, John, you stay in the ring too long. It's not like other sports if you hang around too long.
Right, 100%. Yeah.
Well, Cotto is about the same age, and the reason why I say it's a comeback, because it is an exhibition fight. But with Pacquiao out there still fighting, he's seriously training again for this next possible fight. I think it's with Crawford, is what they're talking about, for sometime in June. They haven't put it solid yet. But Cotto's about the same age as Pacquiao. Now Pacquiao, I don't know if he's just a better fighter, but Cotto was a heck of a fighter back then, John.
Oh yeah, for sure. But he, the regression. See, like Pacquiao, to me, after the Mayweather fight, his next few fights, he looks good. Like if you didn't know who Pacquiao was, you'd say, "Wow, who's this guy? This guy's sharp. Like this guy can fight." Where Cotto obviously suffered a serious regression. He was not the same guy at all. So age is kind of irrelevant in boxing. Some guys are, 35 years old and they're 100 years old. Some guys are 35 like Hopkins and they're still super sharp and effective. So it all depends on the individual.
John, you're big into training. And the one thing about boxing, what bothers me about boxers, once they get to an elite level, it seems that the only time they do any serious training is for a fight. And in other words, they're 12 months out of the year. And if they're fighting twice, that means there's going to be 7-8 months where they're not seriously training out of those 12 months during the year. And that's when I believe they start to decline, when the skills start to slip. Because I think if they treated themselves like world-class athletes, they trained all the time, and they took off, let's say, 1 week after fight to rest up, and then at least went to the gym. I'm not saying they had to box for weeks after, but at least worked out hard year-round. I think you'd see a lot of fighters not declining until they're in their mid-40s or thereabouts. But that's when I think they lose it. Do you agree between fights?
100%. 100%. You know, when I was, especially even as an amateur, like if we fought on Saturday, we were in the gym on Monday. Like that's just the way it was. And as a pro, I continued that. You know, that's just the mentality. Like I couldn't, you know, I boxed. You know, I just always figured, you know, I'm a boxer. You got to go to the gym. That's what you do. But these guys, I had a fighter, world champion, I trained. He wouldn't go to the gym. If he fought, say he fought January 1st, he would fight January 1st. He would not go to the gym until his next fight was announced. He would not go to the gym to spar, to hang out, to talk, to see people, to do anything. And that's not a recipe for greatness. You know, that's not a recipe for, you know, advancing your career. You know, back in the day, not even that long ago, guys were taking non-title fights in between fights, in between big fights. So they had to stay in the gym all the time. But like I say, I know guys who going to the gym is strictly for their fights. And that's literally it. They don't go at any other time.
Well, John, I'm friends with a physical trainer. I don't know whether you're familiar with him, Dave Scooter Honig. You know, he works with some elite fighters. And I'm not going to mention their names. And he's LL Cool J's personal trainer as well. And he told me what drives him crazy is when the fighters come to see him, for him to start working with them, they come to him out of shape. And as a physical conditioner, physical trainer, whatever you want to call it, I don't know what you think of those guys in general. His job is to give them the little extra, push them over the top, get them into great shape. But to get them into truly magnificent condition, they can't come to him totally out of shape at the start, okay? And that's what happens. And then it's like a kind of rush job, and it's not good all around.
Right. Well, you know, a lot of fights, and I'm guilty of this as well in my career. A lot of training camps are spent, the majority of it is spent trying to make weight. Trying to get weight off. You know, the first few weeks, you're just trying to get this guy to lose 15 pounds of water weight. You know, so the boxing aspect of it takes a back seat. And, you know, I'm the type, like I like to be in the gym and we've got to work on different techniques and watch the videos and, you know, really, really high tech stuff. But you get these guys and they're like, well, I'm tired. I had to run an extra 2 miles this morning so I can try and get this weight down. And, you know, everything is weight. I got to get the weight. I got to work on my weight. I got to lose weight. And that interferes with a lot of the actual training because the guys don't take care of themselves between fights.
John, there's talk that Keith Thurman is coming back to fight again in the welterweight division. I mean, what do you think? I mean, does that just add another star into the welterweight division, or can he match up against these welterweights?
I mean, I don't know. You know, Keith, it's like we forgot about Keith. You know, he hasn't fought in so long, but that shows you the power of names. Like he can jump back in anytime he wants, and we'll be talking about him, and he'll be on TV and right back in the mix, no problem at all. That's a good and a bad thing. You know, you have guys today, or, you know, for the last years, like you're ranked number 3, say. You're not a well-known guy, but you're ranked number 3. But then some guy who's really well-known, who hasn't fought in 3 years, will decide to come back, and instantly he takes over your spot. You know, like they move him up in the rankings, and, you know, they're writing articles about him, and he's getting the bigger fights over you, even though you've been boxing the whole time trying to work your way up. So, you know, that's not fair. It's the way it is. You know, boxing is a name-driven sport. You know, when a name comes back, they get right up back in the mix. over guys who are not names but have been struggling for the last 5 years to be a name. So that's an issue within the sport.
Well, Keith Thurman lost his unbeaten record in his title in his last fight. He lost to Pacquiao in a close decision about a year and a half ago, and then COVID hit that made them both inactive. But as John could tell you, Mac, you have a lot of fighters who are businessmen, kind of. They fight because they take a look. Once they get to a high level, they'll say, okay, I haven't fought a while, but I'm going to return to the ring. If I fight so-and-so, I could make about X amount of money. And they pick and choose their spots very carefully. I think that's Keith Thurman now, picking and choosing his spots. But who's not like that, unfortunately? Guys are picking. Pacquiao's like that. He's picking and choosing his spots. But it's going to be interesting, John Mack, if he fights Terence Crawford next. A lot of people feel that could end Pacquiao's career, that Crawford's the big star. He's younger. He's a better fighter. And they're assuming Pacquiao is past his best. But based only on evidence. And the evidence is Pacquiao beating Keith Thurman in his last fight, which shows, he might still be very good. If he's still that same type of fighter, it's not even a gimme that Crawford beats Pacquiao, even though emotionally I think Crawford, is going to beat him with room to spare.
Right, for sure. I mean, Pacquiao, like I say, in the years since, it's been a while since he fought Mayweather, and every time he fought, he's looked good. He has not, this is not the era of a 42-year-old guy looking 42. These are 42-year-old guys looking 28. They still look good. So, for all intents and purposes, you have to doubt that he could beat Crawford at this point. But this is not a gimme in the way that it would have been in a different era when a guy is that age.
Yeah, we got. Of course, they're trying to match up a fight between Wilder and White. White at 28-2, one of the, I think he's a WBC intern champion right now. Of course, we know the problems Wilder's had mentally and stuff, but they think this could be a big fight. They think Wilder, of course, is ring number one right now, behind the two, the two favorites, Joshua and Fury. And White looks like he's a good young fighter. Do you think they could make a fight out of this? Do you think it would be interesting?
Oh yeah, sure. And Wilder's interesting just because people are going to want to see what he has left, what he's going to look like after all the, insanity of the excuses after he lost his last fight. Wilder with his punch, and the thing is, if he comes out and blasts White out, he's right back in the mix. And he can say, hey, I had a flu last time or whatever, and people will buy it. So, yeah, he's always going to be right there. And if he wins, he'll be right back in the mix, no problem at all. So people are going to want to see that, yeah.
Do you think if White wins, Wilder's out of the mix?
Yeah, I would say he's got an uphill climb. If he loses that fight, now, he's going to be a journeyman. But the thing about guys with that kind of power, he could lose 3 fights in a row and then come back and obliterate, Andy Ruiz, say, and he's back. So punchers have the liberty of, always being one punch away from being a good name again.
John, you forgot yourself. You're starting to deal with reality. This is boxing. Wilder could get knocked out by White, take 2 years off, announce he's coming back and be relevant. This is boxing, unfortunately, in that sense. I mean, you're talking reality, but reality and boxing don't play out a lot of the time. But that isn't.
I lost my head. I'm sorry.
By the way, Dillian Whyte, Mac, isn't that young. He's been around a while. And Dillian Whyte did get knocked out by Alexander Povetkin. Then he knocked out Povetkin in the rematch. But John makes a point that is the X factor with Deontay Wilder. We don't know his mental state. No idea at all where he's coming from, what he's thinking. My guess is his mental state can't be that great. Because how come he hasn't returned to the ring in the meantime? If his mental state was strong, he would be back one way or another, wouldn't he, John?
Yeah, I mean, that's what fighters do. They would want to fight. He would want to be back. He would be shouting out everybody, and he would be back in the ring. Another aspect, though, today's world of boxing, he has to come back in a big fight. It's got to be big. Instead of just like the era of a guy like him coming back in a 10-round fight on, not off TV is never going to be back. Like, we're never going to reach that level. And as a result, boxing skills are going to take a hit. Like, boxers are going to continue to regress for little reasons like that, because they're only coming back against top guys, big fights, big money. They're never getting a fight where they can just practice the stuff they're not good at. So yeah, it's a tough situation today.
Well, Iceman, let me try and bring this video up of the highlight from it's real short about Smith making his comeback against Vlasov, if I'm saying it right. But we're gonna see if we can get this up and see if we can get it running this time for you, and see if we can get this video going. Again, it was a great fight. Let's see. I'll buffer for a sec. That's not the one I want. Let's see.
If you need to file one or more state tax returns, you need to visit FreeTax US.
Let's see.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 12 rounds of boxing here at Madison Square.
You're doing good with this.
John, I don't know what happened to Mac. I guess it's you and I. Mac will find his way back on the air, but I got to tell you something, and Mac will confirm it, even though I tease Mac. Mac is picking Joe Smith over Beterbiev when they fight. Mac feels styles make fights. You'd even agree with that. Styles make fights, and he feels that Beterbiev is made to order for Joe Smith because Beterbiev comes forward. Beterbiev would love to mix it up with anyone. That's right up his alley, but it's up Joe Smith's alley. He feels he's just a little fresher, a little quicker, and he feels Smith has the heart of a lion, which Smith does. Smith's heart is as great as anyone's. When he beat Vlasov, he would you agree he willed himself to victory?
Oh, yeah, for sure. But by the same token, that literally is perfect for Arthur. Like, if Arthur was ever going to say, how do I want Joe Smith to fight me? That's how he wanted him to fight him. Like, how he does, how he's going to. Like, it would be perfect. Like, I would say whoever gets caught, it's a dangerous fight for both guys. But if we have to bet, I'm going to bet Arthur gets first.
One by knockout. The reason the fight took place on November 13th.
We'll talk a little more. Mac got it running. I
there
think
was little excitement.
Yes, I'm trying to get this sucker back up here. Let's see if I can do it.
Was just not there. Oddly enough,
can I bring
the
this
second
up?
match turned out to be far more interesting and much more competitive than the first.
That sucker's still playing in it, guys.
John, Mac likes you, so he's a little embarrassed me giving his prediction, but I told him you can take it fine. It'll annoy you a little.
I know he got that. Every time I get a text, it's always like, oh, that Joe Smith, he looked good, didn't he? Relax.
Yes.
Listen, when you look at the guys Joe Smith is beating, that's getting to be pretty impressive. And I think Vlasov is different from Beterbiev. Vlasov is awkward. He was tremendously awkward with all that herky-jerky movement. It gave Smith a lot of trouble, that movement, but it was Smith's kind of drive. And Smith is always in great shape. You got to give his due there, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like, you can't overlook Joe. Like, he's like he reminds me of like a guy. who's
But
a
it's
young
shown
fighter.
that this
He fights like a young fighter who's hungry. You know, he doesn't fight like a fighter, like a veteran. You know, he doesn't try to lay back and, you know, like people say, he uses his experience. You know, that's an overrated thing. I don't even know exactly what that means. Like, use your experience. Like, just because you've had a lot of fights, you still have to have some desire. You still have to push it. And Joe Smith pushes it like a young guy. So he's always there. He's always dangerous.
Strike to the temple.
No, I'm getting the feeling, John, you wouldn't give it away. It's only my guess. Is Better Beef maybe going to box Smith? Go against Form, decide I'll box him from the outside, counter punch, and try to stop him that way? Because you know Smith is moving forward. Smith, I can't imagine circling the ring, but you never know. Maybe they're thinking, wow, we don't want to meet Better Beef head on. Maybe we should be the ones to counter punch to fight differently.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. You know, that's the thing about fights like that. Like, you have to figure both sides are trying to come up with something creative. You know, they're trying to be a little different. So you don't know how they're going to come out. So, you know, but I think Arthur's shown in his last couple fights where he has some boxing ability. He can control a fight until he gets the big bombs. You know, so obviously I like Arthur in the fight. But I'm very leery of the fight. I'll admit that.
Any luck, Mac, getting it up?
I mean, this is. I don't
think you
know.
should shut it off, Mac, because we hear this other voice here.
I'm trying to shut this sucker off, my friend. I really am. I got to figure out what the heck's going on.
A question for John. How much studying takes place of tapes of opponents? You hear some fighters say they don't even want to see a tape of their opponent, that they fought long enough and they can adjust. I can accept that from a fighter. I can't accept that from a trainer saying I don't watch the tape. I can make the adjustments. I mean, I accept it from a fighter, not a trainer. What do you think?
Well, you know what's funny? When I was boxing as a fighter, I used to get bored watching my opponent's tapes, and I didn't have the patience to sit there and figure stuff out. You know, I figure when the fight comes, you know, whatever happens, and I'm going to have to adjust. But I will say this. The two biggest victories of my career as a trainer would be when Chad beat Bernard Hopkins and when Jose Rivera beat Terry Garcia for the title on Showtime. Both of those fights, I studied the tapes and actually found several things that worked, that actually came to fruition in the fight. Looking at the tapes as a trainer was completely different as looking at tapes as a fighter. I saw the fights completely different and noticed things that I wouldn't have noticed back when I was boxing. So as a trainer, I definitely 100% feel that you need to watch the tapes, 100%.
Folks, I'm sorry about that. Every time I have the Iceman on, it works all the time except when the Iceman on. I think he sabotages me over there. But we're trying to show you, of course, the Joe Smith fight. The only thing that really impressed me about that, John, was the comeback. It looked like he was going to lose the fight in the later rounds, and how he willed his way back in. He was beat up pretty good, and he seemed to find out how to throw that overhand right over the top of Lashlow's punch, and he caught him a few good times with that. The determination he has is unbelievable. I mean, he reminds me a little bit about the Raging Bull, if you want to use that, you know, that comparison, where he's like Mata, where he just doesn't give up. It doesn't matter how many times you hit him. So, you know, if Better Beef and him do hook up, Better Beef has as much power as Smith. He might be even a better boxer than Smith, from what I saw. But my God, that dude, if he sticks around, that may be a little trouble for him.
No, he's not taking Arthur's punches. You can forget that. Forget that. That's not happening. If Arthur hits him like that guy was hitting him, we're all going home.
Well, Mac feels he's going to take everything Better Beef throws at him, and Smith will outlast him. Mac looks for blood and guts fight because, listen, if Better Beef was fighting the Raging Bull Jake LaMotta, and someone said, well, LaMotta's going to take everything anyone would throw at him, and outlast him, there's some credibility to that in the case of Jake LaMotta. Okay, so Mac is kind of feeling Joe Smith is a modern-day Jake LaMotta. Right, Mac?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, listen, I know I've watched Better Beef fight. Better Beef is very crisp. He's got a lot of power. But I'm going to tell you right now, Iceman, we've had Joe on, and Joe is very confident, very, very, very much, he's a go-getter. So I don't know how long Better Beef has lasted in a fight before he's knocked someone out. What I'm saying is 12 rounds. If he goes 12 rounds with Smith as determined as he is, and Smith has power too, you might see something happen here. I'm not saying he's definitely going to win, but, listen, that man's got some heart. And I know Better Beef's ever fought with somebody who was much harder than him.
Yeah, let me say this, John. Would you agree with this about Better Beef? Better Beef beats opponents in general by breaking their will. He comes at them physically, but he breaks their will, he breaks their spirit, and it gets to a point in the fight where his opponents have given up because of Arthur Better Beef's drive and strength and punch and skill. Joe Smith is not, Max saying Joe Smith isn't giving up no matter what. No matter what Better Beef brings at him, Joe Smith is never going to stop trying to win the fight. How do you respond to that?
Well, it's easier to have will and determination against Jimmy Young than it is to have that against George Foreman. You know what I mean? Like, all credit to Joe Smith for coming forward and all these things. But when Arthur's hitting you, that's different than other people hitting you. And I mean, that's different. It's a different world. I've had, like I say, I have guys that come to the gym and spar with Arthur, and all they talk about on the way back to the hotel is how hard this guy hits and how just unbelievable, and how they don't even, and these are good fighters, they realize, I can tell by how they're talking, like they realize they're just there to get through this. They're not trying to be a hero anymore, because when they first come, they always want to be a hero. And after a few days, they're like, okay, I just want to survive. And, so it's different. Joe Smith, all those things that make him as good as he is could actually harm him against Arthur Better Beef. They could actually be his downfall, because you're never going to really say the guy that beats Arthur is going to be a guy that can walk forward and take punches, because you're not taking Arthur's flush punches over the course of a fight. Guys who have are guys who have boxed him and ran and been safety first and tried to get through it. Joe won't do that. To his credit, he won't do that.
Well, let me give you
that's going to be his downfall.
Let me give you another example. No one hit harder than Mike Tyson, right? I mean, Mike Tyson, very powerful. But, you got a man named Evander Holyfield who could take his shots and keep coming in and mixing it up with him. So, I mean, it can happen, is what I'm saying, John.
Let me answer that. One thing that was very apparent in that fight, now whether it was artificial or not, that's another story. Holyfield was giant compared to Mike Tyson in that fight. He made Tyson look like a high school kid. He was pushing him around easily. That's not happening. Arthur fought heavyweight as an amateur in the Olympics. Arthur fought at 201, was beating and knocking out guys who weighed 201 pounds at a high level. I saw him spar with a good fighter who weighed 215 pounds. And after the first day, the guy was like, man, I don't even know what to do anymore. This guy hits so hard. So it's a different, it's a different game with Arthur. It's a different, you can't, like I say, you're not gonna be the guy with big heart against Arthur. You're gonna have to be a smart guy with skill to beat Arthur, and you leave the heart for the next guy.
Well, I don't know. I don't know, Iceman. I think he's got a puncher's shot. I really do. I'm not picking.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing, you know.
I'm
Like,
not picking.
puncher's chance and coming forward and trying to beat. Like, you're not going to beat Arthur through a war of attrition. Like, Arthur lives to go to war. His whole mentality.
But so does Joe Smith. He won a battle of attrition against Vlasov. He just wouldn't give up no matter what. He's like the Jimmy Connors of boxing. Connors never gave up on the tennis court. No matter how far Connors was down, he would not give up. He was so tenacious. I don't know, you're a tennis fan. Did you watch Connors play in the past, John? But that's what Joe Smith won't give up against Beterbiev no matter what. And Beterbiev might get back to the corner, John, and might say, I've hit this guy with everything I have. He's like iron. He might say that about Smith. It might be like in the Rocky movie.
He's not human.
Well, John, thanks for letting us come on and razz you a little bit. I really believe it's going to be a great fight. I really do. I mean, if it's anything like the mistake I made with Lennox Lewis and Holyfield, or Tyson Holyfield, or Mata, I mean, if it's any fight like this, that I don't care who wins it. I mean, I would love to see it go the full 12. I would love to see that before somebody get knocked out. Just a great fight, just an exciting fight where you know it's a will thing and a power thing too. I'll give you this: Beterbiev does look more crisp than Smith, no doubt. But I'll tell you right now, he's going to test Beterbiev's heart. I'll tell you that. So we'll see what happens, Iceman. So, hey, and listen, you got to do us a favor. You got to get us Beterbiev. We got Smith coming on again. We need Arthur on. We need to get him on. And hopefully at the same time. That would be awesome.
John, can you deliver Beterbiev? You should be able to do it. I mean, you're associated with him. We won't give him Mac won't tell him that he's picking Joe Smith to beat him. We promise. Mac won't say it. And maybe that would be a good thing for Beterbiev because it would tick him off to get the show. No, Matt won't say it.
No. We're giving Beterbiev right now. Yeah. He's going to be in Russia for a while. He's still over there. So, we'll see if he wants to come on when the time comes. Yeah.
Okay, that'd be great. And one more thing before we go, because I didn't get to the training part, which I love getting with you. Okay, so when you got a boxer, John, and in your relationship with that boxer, being a trainer, head trainer, assistant trainer, whatever you are, what kind of relationship do you have with the boxer? Are you a dad figure, a brother, a friend? I mean, I know you guys got to be talking constantly, working together constantly, going over videos, stuff like that. So, I've heard you talk about it before. As a coach, I had the same thing. It was different relationships with different players, but there was always like a level that you use to get to the fighter. What kind of level do you use, Iceman?
It all depends on the guy. Some guys don't need a father figure, some guys do. Some guys are, immature. Some guys are very straight-laced. Some guys I have to, for all intents and purposes, I have to lie to them during training. It's certain aspects of training I have to lie to get results from them, where other guys need the truth. And they don't accept lies, they know you're lying. So it all depends on the guy. It's just like raising a kid, it all depends on them and you feed off of that. So I'm always at least able to attempt to feed off of them and build a relationship based on their work ethic, their personality, their mental mindset, their mental strength. Some guys I have to really take a big lead and almost guide them down the path, and other guys, I'm trying to keep up with them because they're already on that path, so it depends.
Right. Okay, that's what I figured. I mean, it's the same way. I mean, everybody has their own buttons to push, and some you can yell at, some if you yell at, they back off, and some accept that. You can pull them by the ear sometimes, and some people you just better leave alone and just kind of keep them next to you so they don't get in trouble. You know what I mean? So, all right, Iceman, again, thank you for coming on. We love having you on. Joe Smith will be on. I guarantee you. So I want Arter on, and I want to hear his side of the story, because after Smith goes on, he's going to say he's going to beat him. That's going to happen.
Yeah. And let me tell you, when Smith comes on the show, Mac will be gushing over him, telling him, I just know you're going to beat Better Beef.
Raging Bull. I say Raging Bull. You're going to have, well, I won't say you're going to have to be, but that's what I was.
Mac, he's going to be bringing him donuts and coffee delivered to his house.
Yeah.
Send him a couple of flowers.
Right. So, Iceman, again, thanks for coming on. Enjoy having you. Hope to see you again next week, and have fun for the weekend, my friend.
All right, guys. I'll see you.
Take it easy. So there you go, Jack, the great Iceman, John Scully, with his thing. I could not stop that video. I had to wait to go over.
John took it well, your prediction of Joe Smith. I got to give him credit, but it did bother him.
Yes,
he wanted to lash out at you, but John's a gentleman, too. He strongly disagrees. He was stating why he disagreed, but he really wanted to tell you, Mac, are you out of your mind? Did you see him? He nearly wanted to make the fight now. He would have loved for them to have been in the ring that moment.
He actually gritted his teeth when I said that, Jack. I think he wanted to go in the ring with me right then,
Yeah, listen, you're entitled to your opinion, Mac. You came out with evidence. If Joe Smith is like the Raging Bull, Jake LaMotta, you could hit LaMotta with the kitchen sink.
Yes,
he'll still be coming at you.
Yes, I mean, if I don't know if Smith's ever been even knocked down or not. I think maybe he has been or not, but I know he's gotten back up. So listen, I love the will of Smith. I love his power.
He lost the fight with a broken jaw, went the distance. So
And went the distance. I mean, Better Be's going to have to almost kill this man. He's going to have to kill this man to stop him. So it should be very interesting. So, folks, we're going to take a quick break. Let me gather my studio back together again, put it back together so we can bring you some more great sports on this side. We got a lot of things to get to, folks. So stay with us, please.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. A lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211-INFO-LINE. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting the stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on live Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch. Just had Iceman John Scully on talking about the greatness of Joe Smith. And, you know, Jack, I take that as what I did there during the broadcast, how I came back. I got knocked on the ropes. You know, I was on the ropes. I could have maybe just gave up. But not me, Jack. I wasn't giving up. I was bound and determined to get at least some kind of respect back for my producing skills. So there we go.
Mac, you showed spunk, Mac. I gotta give you credit. I gotta give credit when it's due. You had one of Arthur Better Beef's trainers there, okay, and John Scully, and you told him point blank, you feel his man is going to lose to Joe Smith.
Yeah,
point blank. Scully didn't like it, but you didn't back down. And you went a step further. You compared Smith to Jake LaMotta. Right. And that further got Scully going. Scully was raging inside, but Scully, I also give him credit too. Scully kept it together. Now, what this means is the Joe Smith camp loves you. I'm going to contact his promoter, Joe DeGuardia. We'll be getting Joe Smith back on the show. I like that interaction. You didn't back down, Mac. You didn't back down.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate the kind words. Of course, I wasn't face-to-face with John either. It's on screen, as you can see, so I could be a lot more braver when
But listen, we agreed we won't say it to Better Beef when he's on, and that wouldn't be right to say, you know, for you to say you think Joe Smith is going to beat him. I mean, that wouldn't be right. We wouldn't say that. We promised that to John, but we let John know that.
Right.
And Better Beef is hiding in Russia now. Yeah. Okay, he can come on the show from Russia, can't he, Jack? Can't we send him a link, or how does that work?
Sure could. It
can be done. It can be done there. Okay, yeah. Unless Better Beef is a little scared of Joe Smith, maybe thinking he doesn't want to fight. I mean, who knows?
I mean, after watching Joe Smith come back after that, maybe nobody wants to fight him, including Better Beef. We'll see, though, Jack. I mean, listen, I love the underdog, and as I said, man, there's been a lot of great fighters that just could hang in there and just kind of wear you down, throwing too many punches and taking everything you got. We'll just see if Smith can take Better Beef's punch, right? That's all it is. So anyway, Jack, let's get to one of the sponsor segments that we have on air here. It's one of yours, bstbreaks.com. They go ahead and sponsor this because they just think you're fabulous, Jack, I guess. I mean, they don't sponsor me for nothing. So anyway, let me do this quick little commercial.
Maybe they think the rest of the show's boring, so they like maybe this 5-minute, in any performance, you could find a good point in it. So maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, so let me say a couple words for bstbreaks.com. From the best in wax straight into the pack, BST Sports Cards has it all. Join the phenomenon with the best sports card breakers in the business. bstbreaks.com. Get $10 off select breaks and boxes when you enter the MACJACK Mac Jack code on their website. They have multiple authenticated jerseys, boxes, and more. And they also give back to their community there. So they got all the sports going on, Jack. We got MLB. We've got the NFL draft coming up. We have, the NHL almost to the playoffs right now. Everything's going on, and there's nothing like BST Breaks. They have all the cards and jerseys for all those sports. So, Jack, ain't going to happen where I let you look into your crystal boxing glove and give me your thoughts and your predictions, whether it's going to happen or not. So my first question to you or statement to you is Aaron Rodgers retires next year and becomes full-time host of Jeopardy.
Believe it or not, I think it's going to happen. I know Aaron Rodgers says I could play for a few more years. I still enjoy football. But it all comes down to if he gets the Jeopardy gig. If he gets the Jeopardy gig, the show, it's hard to do both. But that's a debate, we're going to have this weekend. I have a feeling it's going to happen that Aaron Rodgers is just going to lose interest. Some athletes, they never want to retire. They love playing the game so much. But you get the feeling with Aaron Rodgers, if he gets the Jeopardy gig, there might be another talk show and other things, and his life pattern changes a bit. So I'm going to go out on the limb and say it's going to happen in about a year from now.
And he just got engaged too, Jack. So maybe, he doesn't want to playing football while he's married. It's, people stop for different reasons. A-Rod becomes a successful NBA owner.
Ain't going to happen. A-Rod has no clue what he's doing with the Timberwolves. Are you kidding me? I mean, A-Rod's going to make personnel moves. Are you joking? I mean, A-Rod wouldn't be a successful baseball GM. I mean, A-Rod loves the game of baseball, loves watching it, obviously understands it. But come on, A-Rod in basketball. That's like me saying Magic Johnson's going to be if he owned the Major League Baseball team. He's a minority owner, the Dodgers. But that's like saying, because it's Magic Johnson, he's a smart guy, he's going to be a success. Look, come on, Michael Jordan hasn't even been a success as an owner of the Charlotte Bobcats. And A-Rod's not going to be the full owner anyway. No, not with A-Rod. No way. Ain't going to happen.
Good morning to you, Keith and Carlos, and also all the people that are listening out there and viewing out there. Jennifer Lopez will become head of entertainment at the new basketball team, Jack.
With the Minnesota Twins, is J-Lo even going to be with A-Rod? I mean, how can I say it's going to happen? Are they going to be together even, let alone? I mean, what? I mean, J-Lo's going to make decisions with the Timberwolves. I mean, you know what that's good for J-Lo if she's still with A-Rod with the Timberwolves? Maybe helping ticket sales, maybe meeting some fans to try to get some season ticket holders. It's going to create a little bit of a buzz in Minneapolis or whatever. A temporary buzz. Come on, give me a break. What kind of questions that, Mac? Come on. All the questions. The sponsor might get mad at you, Mac.
Yes.
You might be hurting this segment. On to the next question.
Andy Reid will retire due to the family problems and the weight of those family problems with him being head coach at the Chiefs.
That's a sensitive one that I don't feel comfortable answering. I'll answer it, but I don't feel comfortable answering it. People deal with problems different ways. Andy Reid is a football lifer. Maybe that's the best way for him to deal with his problems through his work. You hear situations of people having personal problems. So they deal with it by just throwing themselves into their work. That's how they get away from certain things. And it's tough, tough. Jack has no inside info on A-Rod and J-Lo. No, I don't. I mean, what? They have no inside info on the Timberwolves. A-Rod will be clueless even being an owner there. Come on, Keith, you know better. But with Andy Reid's serious situation with his son, but he's been down this road before with his sons where they've had problems. and he didn't take off in football. That's a very personal decision he's going to have to make. My guess is he's a football lifer. He'll continue on.
Okay. Aaron Boone fired at the end of the year if the Yanks don't make the playoffs, Jack.
Ain't going to happen because I think Brian Cashman is still going to wield great influence with the Steinbrenners because of his body of work. And Aaron Boone is Cashman's guy. He does whatever the organization wants him. And I don't mean this in a negative way, but he's a yes man. Aaron Boone, I'm sure, lets Cashman know exactly why his lineup is as it is. And if Cashman has a suggestion, Aaron Boone is going to take it most of the time and try to incorporate it. So no, they invested. Listen, Aaron Boone wasn't even going to apply for the Yankee manager job. He was at the booth at ESPN. It was Brian Cashman who contacted Aaron Boone and said, why don't you apply for the job? And then Aaron Boone applied for it and he got it because Cashman basically recruited him. He's not going to want to fire him. Even if they don't make the playoffs, there'll be some changes. I don't think Aaron Boone will be one of them.
I mean, you know something? The manager sometimes has the general manager has a lot to do with whether the team's successful or not, too. I mean, you got the players. And if it's true that Cashman is putting a lineup together, telling Boone what to do, will Cashman have a job if the Yankees don't make the playoffs this year?
That's a very good question, Mac. But when you look at Cashman's body of work, he's like the Steinbrenner's right-hand man in everything. And he's built up enough of a track record where I don't see the Steinbrenners, family letting him go. I mean, who else are they going to hire? I mean, Brian Cashman has done it very well for a lot of years. The Yankees have always been relevant, since the mid 70s, they've been very relevant. Even the years they didn't win get to the World Series from 81 to 96, they were still relevant. Okay. And I don't see them moving on from Cashman. I don't see it happening.
I don't know, Jack. I mean, I normally let you take lead on this segment as far as ain't going to happen. But if you continually not make the playoffs with a roster that's, supposed to be going to the World Series every year, according to what you have on paper and the experts say, and you continually lose either in the playoffs.
Continually, listen to your word. The Yankees have made the playoffs like every year. This would be 1 year in a row.
But they have not.
They've been making the playoffs. So if they don't make it 1 year, let's say they have an 85-77 record and don't make the playoffs. Okay, it's not a really. I don't think they're going to panic based on the 1 year. I think they're going to reboot. I think they're going to make changes. I think they're going to dip into the free agent market again. Might look to make a major trade. They might drastically shake things up. I just don't feel Brian Cashman would be a casualty. And if he's not a casualty, I don't think Aaron Boone would be either. That's why I said it ain't going to happen.
Well, I know pressure in New York's different in other places, especially when you're managing a team of the Yankees caliber. It's not like you're managing the Royals where you make it to the playoffs and that's good enough. That's not the way it is with the Yankees, Jack. And I know coaches and managers that have lost their job after going to the head championship a couple of years later because the team is not there. So I mean, I understand what you're saying, but
Can I tell you what happened? Sandy Alderson is probably going to be GM of the Mets for a couple of more years. It was Steve Cohen who kind of plucked him, out of GM retirement to come back to the Mets because Alderson and the Wilpons didn't always see eye to eye. So Alderson moved on. And Steve Cohen, people forget, was a minority owner of the Mets while the Wilpons owned the team. And he built an excellent relationship with Alderson and he brought him back. And if Alderson leaves in a couple of years, which is very, very possible, okay, and Alderson would leave up in the comp, you mean to tell me you don't think Steve Cohen wouldn't pluck Brian Cashman up to be GM of the Mets? the Steinbrenner family would absolutely hate that. They wouldn't let that happen. I mean, we can argue back and forth. It's all speculation. But I think Brian Cashman is safe no matter what happens based on his body of work.
Okay. So, Jack, let's get to our sports update that we don't do in the beginning of this show because, we do the review and we do Iceman John Scully. So in the NBA, the Raptors beat the Spurs 117-112, the Magic 115, the Bulls 106, the Clippers beat Detroit 100-98, the Warriors win 147-109. Indiana goes over Houston 132-124. Dallas gets by the Grizzlies 114-113. Denver beats the heck out of the Heat 123-106. The Wizards beat the Kings. Locally, the 76ers beat the Nets 123-117. Embiid with 39 points and 13 rebounds. Harris kicks in 26. Simmons gets 17, 4 rebounds, and 9 assists. Kyrie gets 37 points for the Nets. And, of course, we know Durant wasn't playing. I mean, a couple of the big three weren't playing last night. But without them playing, the 76ers better beat them, right? Yeah, why don't you gotta hit your mute button, my friend.
One quick word before we get to the Sixer net game.
Go ahead.
It was very intriguing. It was sensational the way the Grizzly Maverick game ended. The Grizzlies are up by 2 points. Allen Grayson of the Grizzlies goes to the foul line. He's a 90% foul shooter. So if he hits both shots, they're up by 4 points. Game's over with 2 seconds to go. Allen Grayson, the 90% foul shooter, misses both foul shots. Dallas gets the rebound, calls timeout, uses their last timeout with 1.8 seconds left. They throw the ball into Luka. He's completely off balance, but he tosses it up, a three-pointer, off balance, falling forward. And the ball goes in, and Dallas steals the game. So talk about sensational endings in the Grizzlies and shock. So it shows you a lot of these games are never over. Don't give up. As far as the Sixers net game, it was a mixed bag yesterday. The Sixers won the game, but they didn't send out a message to the Nets because the only one of the Nets' big three who was in the lineup was Kyrie Irving, Harden, and Durant was out. And the Sixers were totally dominating. And they wanted to send that message to the Nets that I mentioned a while ago. And they're up 22 points. And then before you know it, the Nets cut it down to 3 points. And they actually had a chance to win the game. Ultimately, the Sixers closed the door on the Nets. But they didn't send out the message. And sending the message out would have been to stomp on the net team, beat them by 25 points, and tell them, even if you have your big three, you're not beating us. But the Nets left the court thinking, well, if we had Durant and Harden in there, we would have won without a doubt. And maybe the Sixers were thinking that as well. The Sixers won the game, but they didn't really, send that message to the Nets, make it a statement game that they could have made it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you, Jack. I think that when you're up by 20 and they don't have the big three there, they've got to win by at least 15 points or so. I mean, it's got to be, even though the Nets do have a good team, even without the big three, I mean, the Nets have a solid team, but the 76ers with their stars and should be able to pretty much dissemble them without the big three. The Knicks, Jack, 4 in a row now, right? They go ahead, they beat New Orleans. Zion has his points, nothing huge. He got, I think it was 25 points, 8 rebounds. But here we go again. I mean, you're talking the Knicks with Randall, dominated again, right? He comes in, he does a great job. Burke off the bench has a great game. I mean, he's the one that kept them ahead at the end. So, I mean, what do you think? This is the Knicks are in 6th place right now. They wouldn't have to do a play-in. Of course, it's very tight over there. So they could drop 2 games, 2 places in one game. But
I got to give the Knicks credit.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they've rallied back, a couple of games over 500. Listen, Zion got 25 points yesterday. That's deceiving. Zion's a great, great player, but the Knicks were double and triple teaming him all game. And Zion kept looking to hit the open man, which he did. And New Orleans the Pelicans were awful, from the 3-point line. It seemed like they couldn't hit a 3-point shot. And at the other end, the Knicks were hitting their 3-point shots. And that was really the difference in the game. And, Stan Van Gundy's got to find the answers. I mean, he's been to a few places, and and I know Ball was out yesterday. When you've got a talent like Zion, you build around them. You've got to be a little better than 25 and 30, which the Pelicans are this year. Knicks persevering. What concerns me about the Knicks is the long-range plan. Thibodeau has him a couple of games on over 500. But how much more upside is there to the Knicks team with the roster they have? You get the feeling Thibodeau has taken them as far as he could take them. Because when you look at the Knicks core of young players, it's not as impressive as we thought it was early in the year. Obi Toppin plays his 11 minutes. He grabs a couple of rebounds, scores a couple of points. Quickly is so erratic. Okay, and I'm just not so up. Burks had a great game yesterday, but come on. I mean, he's a bit erratic. And you kind of just wonder, like long range, is this going to gel? I mean, it's great for this year, and it looks like Thibodeau's taking them to the playoffs, and maybe they even surprise us and win a round. But long range, they're going to have to make a deal, at some point. Yeah. And AJ Barrett and, Randall have been great, but in the sense they've been carrying the team, and then someone always steps up the one night, one guy, and maybe the next guy, but there's not that overall consistency. But with that said, look, the Knicks have been a pleasant surprise. I mean, how many people thought they'd be this good?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Jack. I mean, I thought they should have made a big move at the trade deadline. They didn't. They stood pat. So they're just going to have to make a big deal in the offseason, or maybe they got to bring somebody over. But I think it's a little bit more inviting to the bigger stars to come to a team that's going to be in the playoffs and is playing hard and trying to win. I think that's going to be the key to them getting a good-sized free agent, maybe in the offseason. Who knows? We'll see. But I believe that in its own has improved the Knicks' chances in getting a bigger free agent to come over.
Yeah, right. The Knicks now, for the first time in many a year, are becoming somewhat of an attractive destination for a free agent. Listen, don't look now, but the Boston Celtics have woke up. Okay, they're on a bit of a streak. They're a few games over 500, and they're starting to roll. And the Celtics have their version of the big three, Brown, Tatum, and Walker.
Right.
And who knows, if the Celtics put it all together, they could make a little noise in the East. So the East, is pretty deep this year.
Yeah, I do like the competition there, and with the chance of maybe one of those two teams actually winning a championship from the East, which hasn't been there for a while. When's the last time an East team won? Was it Cleveland? I can't remember.
Toronto.
Toronto, that's right.
Oh, years ago. Yes, it hasn't been long. But Toronto, listen, Toronto struggled a lot this year. It's funny. Like last year when Kawhi Leonard left, Toronto actually was outstanding during the regular season. It's like they won twice as many as they lost without Leonard. And then in the playoffs, I mean, they won the doormat. They hung in for a while. But this year, really, Kyle Lowry's been out, and they've really slipped substantially. They might be in a rebuild mode next year. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, Toronto did win 2 years ago, but it's far and few in between, Jack, in the last, about 10 years? Pretty much the West has pretty much dominated the championship. So let's hope that at least an East team can get in there and win the championship this year. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. So let's push on to the Major League Baseball. The Nationals beat the Cards 6-0. Milwaukee beats the Cubs 7-0. Kansas City 6, the Angels 1. San Francisco beats the Reds 3-0. The Pirates 5, San Diego 1. Rangers beat the Rays 5-1. Detroit beats Houston 6-4. Marlins 6, Atlanta 5. The White Sox 8-0 over Cleveland. A no-hitter, almost a perfect game, Jack, by Carlos Rodon. This is the second one in, 2 weeks? And there's only one walk when he hit a batter. I mean, a great play was made at first base to save that. But, I mean, almost a perfect game.
I'll tell you, Carlos Rondon, right, pitches a no-hit against the Indians. He had a perfect game going with 1 out in the ninth. He hits Roberto Perez in the foot. And even Rondon said, well, Perez probably didn't know the pitch that was coming to get out of the way. I think the batter froze because when a ball is thrown low, it's harder to get out of the way as opposed to it throwing high. That's why they say if a pitcher truly wants to hit a batter, hit him, you aim low for his legs because, if you throw high, you could duck. What I found interesting about Rondon's no-hitter was the attitude he had and the players had. It was none of that, he didn't get the perfect game. What a bad break to hit a guy in the foot 1 out in the ninth inning. And it was as if it was very minimal losing the perfect game. As long as he got the no-hitter, it was like, who cares? I'm a little different. To me, there's a big gulf between a perfect game and a no-hitter because I think the perfect games are so much more rare. But listen, that's a nice consolation prize. He didn't get the perfect game, so sometimes the consolation prize is pretty good. And in Rondon's place, the no-hitter is a nice consolation.
And more important, the White Sox just trounced Cleveland. The Dodgers beat the Rockies 4-2. It's a machine over there, as I said before. And the locals, the Mets beat the Phillies. Nemo, 3 for 5, scores a couple times. Lindor, 2 for 4. He scores twice. Dominic Smith hitting the heck out of the ball. McCann even went 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Peterson gets the win. He goes 6 innings, 1 run, 2 hits, 10 strikeouts. Philadelphia, Segura goes 2 for 3 with an RBI, and Zach Wheeler gets the loss, Jack. I mean, that's got to feel good a little bit to the Mets that Wheeler got beat, right?
Well, Wheeler had a good year last year. Listen, if Nemo keeps it up, I'm going to tell you he's better than Brett Gardner. Let him keep it up, 3-4 more weeks, okay? Stay healthy, keep it up that time. Nemo's got to play the way he's playing. Nemo's really good, okay? Really, really good. And Peterson struck out 10 yesterday. Listen, nice going. Listen, Lindor's going to hit. Lindor's going to be fine. I know I mentioned it yesterday. Well, what if he's slumping? They're 6 weeks into the season and the Mets aren't doing well. It's still back and forth. Look, the Marlins got off to a 1-5 start. Didn't they just sweep Atlanta?
Yeah.
And Atlanta's struggling, but Atlanta's going to bounce out of it. There's only one team in Major League Baseball who I feel I would be discouraged about at this point in time, and that, you're going to laugh, the Colorado Rockies. They're 7 games out. They're in the same division with the Dodgers and Padres, and before you know it, the Rockies could be 15 games out, and it'll be like season over before the month of May is out. I mean, something like that are pretty discouraging. But, some teams are going to separate themselves from the pack. I think you're going to have most of the teams that are kind of got hang in there for a while. So it's going to be a fun baseball season.
Well, I totally disagree with Carlos on this one. The Dodgers are the shiny used card that eventually will.
What, Carlos? The Dodgers are the defending World Series.
It got better.
Coming off.
It got better in the offseason, so we'll see. Let's get to the Red Sox, Jack. I told you so. I know it's early. They win a doubleheader. 3-2 and 7-1. Christian Arroyo is 2 for 4 in RBI. The right fielder is 1 for 3 with an RBI in the first game. In the second game, big 5th inning. Alex Verdugo, he's 3 for 4 with 3 RBIs. Rafael Devers 3 for third base, 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Eduardo Rodriguez gets the win at 5 innings, 5 hits, 5 strikeouts, and more impressively to me, Jack, is their long relief and their relief pitching. They're pitching pretty good in that bullpen right now. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not saying they're going to win this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a major move in third or fourth place this year. I really think the Red Sox are going to do something.
Mac, you're not saying the Red Sox are going to win this year. I'm saying they're not going to win this year. Yankee fans, when you look at the standings and you see the Yankees are 4 games out of first place, they're really 1 game out of first place. They're 4 games behind the Red Sox, who are 9-3. The Red Sox are like a marathon runner who tears out at a fast pace early in the race, and they take the lead. The camera's on them running all alone, and you're all excited. They're not going to be there at the end, okay? And you know who's going to be there at the end for the Yankees? Have to be concerned about Toronto and perhaps Tampa Bay as well to an extent. And the Yankees are 1 game behind Toronto and Tampa Bay. So if I'm a Yankee fan, I'd be more concerned with my own 5-7 record than I am with the Red Sox 9-3 record, because the Red Sox aren't going to maintain it for the course of the whole race/season. They're going to fall off the pace, and the Yankees just have to play better from their end. Otherwise, they're beating no one. You know, you're 5-7. And I'll agree with this, Mac. It gets to a point in the year where you can no longer say, well, it's early in the year. There's plenty of time. You know, they'll get to be to that point. But the Red Sox, they're not built to last. So you might point to their bullpen that's pitching well, the 9-3 record. And have they won 9 in a row, the Red Sox? Because they did get swept. They got swept by the Orioles to start the year. And they went on a streak. Listen, even the bad teams, the worst teams, have a point in the year where they play really well for a segment of a couple of weeks. And I think this is the Red Sox time. They just kind of tore out of the gate after getting swept by the Orioles. It might last a while longer. This might go on 3-4 more weeks with the Red Sox. But, you know, it's inevitable. They'll slow down. They'll come back to the pack and then behind the pack. And I like Toronto to win the division, but I like the Yankees to eventually get it together and maybe the last day of the season and even grab a wild card slot. That's how I see the season playing out.
Jack, who was the World Series manager? Who was the manager of the last World Series Red Sox team?
You talk about Alex Cora.
Yeah.
And he's back with the Red Sox. And listen, the Red Sox had the players then. I mean, whatever. But you listen, time's going to tell. It's hard for me to make a convincing argument against a team that's won 9 in a row. Okay? But listen, come on, Mac. I mean, Alex Cora.
Who was the manager when Houston went to the World Series?
AJ Finch, but he's with the Tigers. The Tigers just swept the Astros. Listen, these guys aren't. Listen, are they difference makers? A manager can be a difference maker, you know, at times. I mean, you know, he could have a calming effect. He could make strategic moves. The Tigers have a really good farm system. So the Tigers are one of those teams under AJ Finch. They could have a breakout season. A breakout season for the Tigers would be winning more than they'd be losing. It's conceivable they'll do that this year. Conceivable. But I don't see the Tigers, you know, being a playoff team, the Red Sox being a playoff team. No,
I agree with that. I agree with that. All I'm saying is everybody was saying like the Red Sox are going to be in last this year, and nobody's counting. You know, they're counting them out early. If you're going to go against the Red Sox right now, right at this point in time, and you got to get you got to have a winning record at the end of the year to edge somebody out. All I'm saying right now, Jack, is right now they're relevant. And if the Yankees are going to play the Red Sox right now, are you sure that they're going to sweep the Red Sox? I'm not so sure.
No, the Yankees are not good at this point. I'm just saying over the 162-game season, the Red Sox, when all is said and done, they're going to fall behind the Yankees, fall behind Toronto, fall behind Tampa Bay. They'll finish ahead of the Baltimore Orioles. I'll maybe give you that, okay?
Okay.
But that's just why. I mean, the Red Sox aren't finishing higher than 4th place in the East. At best, maybe at best, they can get into 3rd place if either the Yankees, Toronto, or Rays really have an uncharacteristic off year. But, 4th place for the Red Sox at the end of the day.
And remember, guys, I'm a Yankee fan, but I know listen, I never ever lose sight of the Red Sox. So also we got to talk about the Yankees. We've been talking about them a little bit. They lose 5-4. Judge goes 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Urshela drives in a couple of
2
RBIs.
homers by Judge. He had 2 home runs, Mac. Give him his due there.
Yeah, well, he didn't win, so it wasn't at the right time.
You say 2 RBIs, 2 home runs. It sounds better. It's more, more of an accomplishment.
Nobody was on when he hit the home runs. Jack Kluber goes 4 innings, 3 earned runs. Chad Green gives up the run. I don't know what else to say anymore. I'm done talking. I'm done making excuses for the Yankees. As you know, I'm a lifelong Yankee fan, but I'm done making excuses for him, Jack. No more excuses.
Kluber hasn't pitched well this year. Look, they gave him a 1-year, $11 million contract. It's good money to lay out for a pitcher for 1 year, but it was kind of an experiment. He's a former Cy Young Award winner. He's been injured the last couple of years, and you're hoping he's healthy and he's back to his old form. It hasn't played out that way so far, But there's not a big body of work. But if Kluber doesn't resemble his old self and Severino doesn't come back and be in form, it could be a long season for the Yankees because Garrett Cole could do only so much as their starter. And I don't know, will they try to make an in-season deal? But getting quality pitching in season is going to be very difficult. So the Yankees have no choice but to heavily, count on Corey Kluber to resemble his old self.
If there was a pitching deal to be made, Cashman would pick up a reliever. In the sports updates, Jack, we have the NCAA Division I voted unanimously to allow the athletes to transfer once without sitting the season out. Now, that's a big change from the rules. I mean, if you transferred, you had to sit a year. So they're loosening the grip on that, but you only can transfer once, Jack. You can't transfer twice in the same year.
That's a major thing. True. Because good players who are sitting behind someone else, very unhappy with the way they're being used, maybe very unhappy with the coach or the university. They have more of a choice now. Before, they wouldn't want to sit out 1 year because 1 year would be an eternity. So they might stick it out. But now that they could transfer and play elsewhere, you're going to see a number of them go somewhere else. What I'm concerned about is the possibility of tampering. Another school might get word to that athlete, well, if you come to us, you can play immediately with our school, as opposed to them sitting out a year. There could be implications with tampering now with schools. I would keep an eye on that.
Yeah, it's a good point, even though tampering probably does happen a lot more than we know. This gives another avenue. You're right, Jack. It does give another avenue for tampering, but it does, when you are a quarterback, running back, or whatever, and you're behind somebody that you are just as equal to, and you're not getting the play time or whatever the case may be, at least this gives them a chance to go and start right away.
Jalen Hurts going to Oklahoma. He fell behind Tua, as a starter, and rather than stay at Alabama as a backup, he transferred. I mean, that's a perfect case.
Yes, Carlos is still on. We don't even have to talk about basketball. Carlos is still all over Tibbs. Jadeveon Clowney says he still can dominate. He just got signed by the Browns. Now, that goes to your definition of what dominate means. I don't think of Jadeveon Clowney as a dominator. He's a good athlete, always hurt. Maybe still has some years in him. But domination to me, now you're talking J.J. Watt. You're talking to about linemen that are unbelievable. To me, Jadeveon Clowney has never been unbelievable. He's never been a dominator. He's a good player. That's all, Jack.
The Houston Texans took him as the #1 overall choice in the draft. And that's when J.J. Watt was playing phenomenal. But J.J. Watt was one of the best players in the NFL. And the idea was you match him and pair him with J.J. Watt on that defensive line, and you're really onto something big.
Right.
And Clowney's performed well in the NFL. I mean, he's been a good player. He's been a pretty good player. I mean, but he just hasn't been, like you said, that dominating force that you thought he could be. But now he's going to the Cleveland Browns, and maybe he could be a dominating force there. But I'm going to tell you this. Don't go to sleep on this deal. He's going to help that Cleveland Brown defense an awful lot. And when we talk about the Super Bowl next year, the Cleveland Browns definitely are a threat to come out of the AFC, a major threat to come out of the AFC next year. And Clowney, he's going to help that defense an awful lot.
Well, as long as he stays uninjured, Jack, that's been his biggest problem. He had that big hit in college, and he was kind of, he was the next coming of Deacon Jones, but it never really made it to that level. He's got to stay healthy, Jack. He can't be your.
And his attitude, he's had a reputation of being a little bit lazy at times. But if you're with a Super Bowl contender, week in, week out, Super Bowl fever's building as they're getting towards the playoffs, his teammates will keep him motivated.
We'll see, Jack. We'll see what happens with that. I mean, he is a great athlete, but, a great athlete hurt on the bench all the time, and a lazy great athlete is not a great thing to have on a team. So let's get to this day in sports history, Jack. This is where we go back in the past, take a look at some of the events, maybe some of the birthdays that we can look at. We like to go back, folks, because, history leads to the modern day and to the future. So in 1947, Jackie Robinson is the first black player in the major leagues. Back in 1947, we all know the story pretty much, Jack. I mean, even his own team really didn't want him there. I'm not sure if he was the first, though. I think there was a guy that was a little bit before him, if I read before. But really, this is the guy that started the integration of the African Americans into Major League Baseball, Jack. Just your mute button, my friend.
You can't say enough about Jackie Robinson, what he's meant to the game. He was a great player. Let's for a moment forget about how he impacted the game socially. Let's forget about that. Let's just concentrate on Jackie Robinson for what he did on the field. No one seems to talk about that. They talk about Jackie Robinson, what he meant, breaking the color barrier and all that. But let's talk about Jackie Robinson, the ball player, a little bit. He was a heck of a ball player. He raised havoc on the bases. I once talked to someone, because I hadn't seen Jackie Robinson play outside of clips. It was before my time. And I asked them many years ago, compare Jackie Robinson, who would he be like today? And they told me, well, he was his era's version of Rickey Henderson. We know how Rickey Henderson was dynamic on the bases, the way he made things happen, and just a heck of a ball player Jackie Robinson was. Jackie Robinson retired after the Dodgers traded him. Believe it or not, they traded him to the New York Giants. And at that, when Jackie Robinson played, players were extremely competitive team to team. And the Dodgers hated the Giants, and the Giants hated the Dodgers. And Jackie Robinson thought, I can't go to the Giants. I mean, they're my arch enemy. How can I play for my arch enemy? But he wrote them a very nice letter saying, why he's retiring. It's like time. But it wouldn't have been, and good for Jackie Robinson spending his whole career in the Dodger uniform rather than going to the arch enemy Giants at the end. It wouldn't have mattered because the Giants did move to San Francisco. So the rivalry faded away once the Giants moved. It faded away gradually. It was still there.
Hey, look, I respect, Jack, any player I don't care if it's a long time ago or today, that finishes their career with their team. I mean, to me, that's the highest praise that you can give to that team, wanting to play with them your whole career, winner or loser. And I miss those days. But Jack, as always, time goes by fast. You know, we got to get back. We got to get out of here and get ready for tomorrow's show. I want to thank all the guests that came on today. Carter B., Iceman John Scully, and hopefully you guys have a great day today. We'll see you tomorrow morning, same time, same channel. I want to thank you all for joining us. Jack, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks for joining.
Same to you, Mac. Take it easy.